All right. Well, for this next session, we are discussing the establishment, maintenance, and expansion of farmers market food products. And we have with us Madison Mehringer. And she has earned her bachelor's degree in food science from Purdue University with minors in fermentation science and horticulture. She has worked with multiple companies in the food and agricultural fields, including creating a sanitation verification system in tomato manufacturing facilities, flavor analysis and sensory testing, and dairy manufacturing pH development analysis in cheese products. Currently, Madison works at the Food Entrepreneurship and Manufacturing Institute within the Food Science Department at Purdue University. In her role, Madison manages and runs the Agricultural Innovation Center program that seeks to provide resources and product and business development assistance to Indiana agricultural commodity producers looking to bring value-added food products to market. She has created multiple online courses focusing on food industry and business planning fundamentals, has established and run workshops focusing on the life cycle of food products, and manages food and business development projects. So with that, we want to thank you for joining us and welcome you to start your presentation.
Awesome. Thank you, Jared. I appreciate it. And welcome, everyone. We are back from lunch, so I appreciate you all coming back. And welcome to my presentation. So Jared gave such a nice intro. We'll probably skip the welcome intro slide after this one. But today we're going to be walking through just establishment, maintenance, and expansion of farmers market food products. So one thing that I do want to note just right at the beginning of this presentation is that while some of the topics that I'm going to talk about today are specific to food products, a lot of it can honestly be applied holistically to any type of vendor in your farmer's market and your farmer's market holistically. So I've seen a little bit of everything across the food industry, the different business and vendor spaces. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat, and I'll be happy to answer them at the end so I don't lose my train of thought during the presentation. But happy to walk through any and all questions as it pertains to, again, anything in that space, food product focused, but outside of that as well. So this is that welcome slide that we're just going to skim over since Jared did such a great job. So again, I've worked with products all across the food industry, cheese, dairy manufacturing, tomato based. I've done different consumer studies, flavor analyses, and also within the product development and business development spaces as well. So today, focusing on establishing and expanding your food product business with some points in markets and vendors across the vendor space. So there are three major steps as you kind of look at the life cycle of your business, specifically your food product business. So the first thing that you're going to want to think about and work through is establishment of that business in general, whether that is as a home-based vendor with your food products, whether you are manufacturing in different commercial spaces, and how you are going to establish and set up that business on the business planning, the financial side, and all of those nitty-gritty details in between. And then after you create and establish that business, you get it going. Then how do you maintain it? So how do you grow sales? How do you modify your product and your business plan to fit your business? So this could adapt and it could change depending on if you're doing something that's seasonal, only within the farmers market seasonality space, or if you do farmers markets maybe in the spring, summer, and fall, and you switch to something else in the winter when there are less markets, and those details in between. And then expanding your business. So that could be in a variety of different ways. You could expand the offerings of the products that you have. So for example, if you have just apricot jams and jellies, would you expand to strawberry or blueberry? Or in a farmer's market holistically, would this be, instead of just focusing on produce vendors, also incorporating maybe food trucks or different crafts and commodities vendors within your market to attract a bigger audience? So one thing that I do want to note is that this is not a linear path. Yes, you'll start with the establishment part, but when you maintain and you expand, you're often going to cycle through steps 2 and 3 pretty, pretty often, depending on how much you want to expand and alter your business. So it definitely doesn't have to be linear, and your path for either your booth, your business as a farmer's market manager with your market holistically, these are all going to look different for everyone, and it shouldn't be a cookie cutter plan because every business and every product are all unique. So I think that that's really important to mention. And as we go through the presentation, I'll give some examples about either different products or vendor booths or markets holistically and how these things can apply to each so that you can kind of think about it in terms of your own unique circumstances. So step 1, establishing that business or specifically your food products if you're looking at the food product space. So the 3 major considerations for establishing that food product business. The first one would be the product and business feasibility. So we will walk through all of these steps in a little bit more detail in the coming slides. But very largely, do your business and product have a space in the marketplace? If you are planning on making apple pie, do you know that you can sell that, or will you be directly competing with 3 other people already selling apple pies in your market? And also looking at business planning. Do you have a plan for how you will set up, run, and grow your business? Sometimes businesses are very spur of the moment, and you say, I'm going to start selling this apple butter, and I'm going to take it to the market, and I'm going to grow and see how it goes from there. That's great. Spur of the moment, spontaneous, love it. However, think through some of those details and logistics at the same time. How are you going to staff your booth at your market? How are you going to look at pricing and those sorts of things? And then specifically for food products, double checking that food product safety while you're establishing that business. There are actually very few things worse than creating a food product, being super excited about it, and then realizing that you have not been in compliance with certain regulations for either safety, labeling, and those sorts of things with your food product. So making sure that you are producing that product in a manner that is safe and fulfills those regulatory requirements is essential as you're working through this process. So let's dive a little bit deeper. So Part A, that first one that we talked about, food product and business feasibility. So does your business and product have a space in your market, whether that be you as a booth or the market holistically? So how are we going to go about looking at this? So that is with a product or business feasibility study. So the first thing that I would recommend you do is perform what's called a SWOT analysis. And SWOT, looking at the graphic on the right, it stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And these look at both things you can control internal to your business and things that are happening around you or externally. So for example, let's go back to the pumpkin pie example. If we are doing a SWOT analysis, maybe some of our strengths are that we have a unique recipe. Maybe we use cinnamon and cloves and allspice in a blend that no one else really typically does. And that's a strength, is that we have a unique recipe that everyone likes. Maybe a weakness is that we don't have capacity to produce a lot of pumpkin pies. So space and the quantity that you can make is really a concern. Then on the external, outside of your business, the surrounding marketplace, maybe in that area, an opportunity you can explore is selling at multiple different farmers markets. So you could target one farmers market that's on a Friday, one that's on a Saturday, and then you are able to target 2 different audiences of consumers and get different feedback at each. And then lastly, the threats. So that kind of comes back to the competition. Are you the only one or one of a few select that are selling pumpkin pies or pies in general in your market? Or is there a lot of competition there and you need to differentiate yourself? So just thinking through these different pieces can really help you see where you fit into your market and then also kind of make yourself stand out. How are you different? How are you special? And actually making sure that your consumers know what those different values are so that you can best bring people in. So that would be the SWOT analysis. And then we kind of touched on these points, but looking at who your competitors are, who are the people around you, and also making sure that your price is competitive. If your pumpkin pie is 2 times more expensive than everyone else, unless you've got a really good value for why it's 2 times more expensive, that's something that you need to think about is, will you sell at that price point? And then again, thinking through the seasonality of the product. So if you're using your own pumpkins to create that pumpkin pie, is there only a certain time of year when you could produce them? Next is business planning. So do you have a formal, written down, thought through the details and logistics plan for how you will set up, run, and grow your business? So how to analyze this is by actually writing a formal business plan. So the graphic here shows all the different components of a business plan. And I know that this can look very daunting if you haven't written a business plan before. There's a lot of different pieces. Also, maybe you're wondering, what are they? What is a vision and a mission statement? That second step there. How are they different? Sometimes they can sound pretty similar. So how do you differentiate between them? How do you know and gauge your budget and your financial plan and all of those different components? So there are multiple templates for building business plans that are available online. And I will actually, later in the presentation, I have a resources slide that actually has a link on it to a business plan template that is available English and Spanish that one of our faculty here at Purdue University developed. And it is a great step-by-step, it's question and answer format,
Money
and really
for
walks
her
you
to set
through
aside.
everything.
And then when Jackie passed, Jackie's husband was like,
So as we are looking at those different business plans, you can kind of pick a template that works best for you and for your situation. And then you can also, again, look at that question and answer format in some of those templates to get a better idea of how do I formulate a vision and mission statement. And business plans, I truly believe, are a really great way to guide your efforts so that you are not kind of flying by the seat of your pants, wondering, how should I target different consumers? How should I enter different markets? Instead, you have a clear guideline of, okay, this is what my business is about. And it helps you communicate it better. When you're talking to consumers and potential partners, whether you're a vendor or a market holistically, being able to say, this is our mission statement. This is what we want to do as a business or as a community, as a market. This is our vision for our business or community impact on the market. Those different areas can really help create those partnerships and again, guide you as you work through the process. So one other thing to really focus on specifically if you are doing food products is food product safety. So are you producing your product in a manner that is safe and also fulfills regulatory requirements? So honestly, food product safety regulatory is a very deep, very broad topic. And we've had some other presentations in the Farmers Market Forum so far that have touched on some of these different areas. So I am specifically going to focus on product testing right here. However, if you have additional questions, either at the end of the presentation or you can access some of those resources I'm going to point out later to look at your specific regulatory and safety requirements. But as I said, focusing on product testing more from the safety side, you can send your product in for formal food safety testing if applicable. So Indiana is a county health department governed state. So what that means is that sometimes your county health department will require that you submit, most often, pH and water activity testing of your food products. And these are important because both of them are metrics used to gauge food safety. So for pH, on a scale of 1 to 14, you have a guideline of 4.6 and less in the food industry for safety by pH. And you also have, in terms of water activity, on a scale from 0 to 1, 0.85 as your threshold for a water activity controlled food safe product. So this will depend county to county and product to product. Those are just the general numbers and guidelines, just to kind of mention them. But that sort of testing can really be beneficial to say, hey, I did process and produce this product in a way that is safe for consumers of your business, your booth, your market as a whole. So those different guidelines are very important as you move forward. And I also highly recommend that you dive into the current regulatory guidelines for your specific product and also your production as well. So if you are a home-based vendor versus if you are producing in a commercial kitchen compared to a co-manufacturing facility, for example, for those different food products, those all have different regulatory guidelines. So be sure to review those and look at how they apply to your specific product. So if you are a home-based vendor, I know that those questions do typically come up a lot. Later in the presentation, there is an upcoming webinar. So I will show you information for that so that if you're interested in learning more, you can attend that webinar to learn more about home-based vendor products specifically. But the QR code on your screen will actually take you to the product testing webpage that you can see here. So there are multiple different labs and facilities that will do pH and water activity testing. I'm with the Food Entrepreneurship and Manufacturing Institute, or FEMI, and we also offer testing. So if you send in products for pH and water activity testing jointly, that's $100 cost, and you will get in triplicate certified results of your pH and water activity testing. And then you can also just do pH or water activity testing separately if that is what you would prefer. So that is establishing your business. The main things to think about: your business plan. Do you fit in the competitive space? And if you're doing a food product, is that product safe? Now that we've established our business and we've got the foundation, we've got the groundwork, how do we maintain and modify our business as we continue to take it forward into the future? So the three main considerations for maintaining your business, specifically food product businesses, are to gather consumer feedback. So what do your consumers think about your product? What modifications should you make? Also review your pricing. Are you competitive in your marketplace? Again, if you are selling your muffins for 2 times the price of the person next door, unless you've got a really compelling reason why, that's going to be hard as people shop on a budget. And also look at your supply and demand. Do you have enough product to satisfy the demand? Are you selling out? Do you have a lot left over that then has to go to waste? We definitely don't want that. So how do you calibrate to make sure that you're producing what you need to? So the first part of this is gathering that consumer feedback on your products. And I think that sometimes it seems really daunting. Oh my gosh, I have to ask all these people to give all this information, and will my customers want to fill out a survey? Does it have to be a 20-minute in-depth process? You know, all these different things that you can be thinking about. And thankfully, does not have to be that complicated at all. So product feedback surveys actually can be extremely easy if you are a vendor or a farmer's market holistically, because you already have your participants right there in front of you. So if you are a vendor and you want to gauge, what do people think of my zucchini bread? Do they think it's too moist, too dry? Is the spice level high enough? All of those different components. You can do on the spot consumer feedback with a product tasting. So you can have, and again, follow the guidelines according to your farmer's market for tastings, and also food safety and regulatory guidelines for this as well. However, doing all of it safe and within guidelines and regulations, you can do a product tasting and actually get on the spot feedback from your consumers. Do people think that your product is truly moist enough, or do you maybe need to work on it because it's a little crumbly and dry? And you can get that verbal feedback, and you can talk to your customers and interact with them. And maybe there's somebody that's walking by that would not have stopped, but they did, and they provide feedback, and you can gather insights of maybe why they were not considering stopping by. Well, you know, I tried your product and it didn't taste the best for X, Y, and Z reasons. Okay, great. If a lot of people are saying the same thing, now you know how you can modify your recipe to then capture all those extra customers. You can also do a QR code survey. So QR codes, you can pretty much insert any web survey link and create QR codes for free online. And you can put that, as a paper on your either market check-in booth, or if you're a vendor, on your vendor booth, and people can scan that QR code and take a quick online survey. You could also put it on your product. So let's say you make ice cream, and every tub of ice cream, you can put that QR code either on the back or the top, wherever you can, as long as it doesn't cover up those other necessary information for food products. And once people take it home and try it, they can then scan that QR code. So it doesn't have to be done on the spot. It can also be hey, I'm not doing a product tasting. Please buy my product, take it home, try it, tell me what you think. And then kind of a third option is a comments jar. So this is if your market is extremely busy and you don't necessarily have time to have those conversations. I know it can get super hectic, especially on the weekends, Friday nights, in the summer when people are really coming by and farmers market season is in its huge swing. So you can have people write on slips of paper comments, ideas, and things in that perspective as well. So I love consumer feedback because it actually lets you get into the perspective of the consumer. Because we all love our products. That's why we make them. We love them. We want to share them with other people, get them into the community. And this is a great way to take off that hat of this is my product and I love it, and see what consumers think about it too. Something else is to review your pricing. So we talked about this a little bit with the SWOT analysis, but it especially comes into play when you're looking at maintaining your business and making sure you fit within the space. So you can research the prices of your competitors. So sometimes this involves going into a grocery store. So the picture on the left is intentionally blurred a little bit. This is not promoting any of the products in the picture. But to give you an idea of how to do a store check is you can actually go look for your product. If you sell honey, and that is what you sell at your booth, at your business, go look at honey on a grocery store shelf. See what it typically sells for. Or go around to either other vendors in your market or surrounding farmers markets and see what other people are selling that honey product for. And you can kind of gauge if you are competitive. And this actually can have some great insight into demand for your product, which we'll talk about a little bit more on the next slide. But if you are noticing that your sales are declining, maybe it's because your price isn't at the right price point. Maybe you're aiming way too high and your honey is too expensive. And when you lower it to where it is competitive, maybe then those sales and that demand would increase. So it's a good way to kind of gauge where you fit and to make sure that you are something that consumers see as competitive and viable. So that's kind of a store check, market check. And then you can also do online research. Some people are playing with the e-commerce space. Some people don't want to touch it. That's totally okay. It's just a good idea to kind of know the space that you're in and to see what's out there. So here's that supply and demand slide. So are you monitoring it? I know this can sometimes be hard when you're in the middle of a market and there's a lot going on and people are rushing around and you're trying to answer questions while also doing sales at the same time, while restocking, and you wear lots of different hats at your booth or within your market. So taking a second to monitor demand can seem daunting. However, you can do inventory checks. So this is with observational research. So you can monitor your sales volume in terms of inventory at your market. So for example, I would recommend that before you go, and some of you might be doing this already, which is absolutely wonderful, see how much you bring of all your products. If you are making various butters, if you're doing apple butter, nut butter, all of those different products, okay, I am bringing 40 of each to the market this week. Then monitor. How quickly is one selling out compared to the other? Just quick observational, look at how much inventory you have left during the market, make a mental note. And then at the end, you can compare how much did you actually sell? Because if you know your starting point of how much you brought, subtract what you sell, you also have what is left. And that's a really great way to see, hey, it looks like I'm actually selling out of this flavor really early. So maybe next week I need to make more of it because that's what the consumers are tending to want, as opposed to blindly kind of guessing and saying, well, I'm going to bring a little bit of everything because I'm not exactly sure what sells the best. So that's a really great way to also interact with consumers and to be able to provide your markets and your communities with the products that people want and the things that really bring people to your booth and your market in general. So you can adjust your production according to these results. Again, if you have an apple tart and an apple scone and the scone sells out, but the tart does not, you can adjust your production accordingly. So then this final piece, you've built your business, it's got the foundation, the fundamentals. Now you're maintaining it. You're looking at what consumers think about your product. You're seeing if you're competitive, and you're interacting within the space to really calibrate that supply and demand balance. So what happens then in step 3 when you want to expand? So these are the 3 considerations for expanding then your food product business, your craft business in general. These 3 really relate to any vendor within the market and also farmers market themselves, because your market can expand in terms of partnerships, offerings, how many vendors you have, and all of those different components. So we're going to talk through the additional sales channels and distribution channels that you can look at, additional product offerings, and then marketing plans. So looking at additional sales and distribution channels. So what are those other avenues that you can use to sell your product or cater to different audiences? So I really like the chart that we have on the screen here that says direct and indirect. So this walks through potential options for ways that you can sell and communicate with consumers. This could be directly to consumers with e-commerce, retail. B2B stands for business to business sales. Look at different marketplaces, utilize social media, or indirect. Maybe you want to be the bread supplier to your local school system. That is an indirect way that you can sell your product. And actually, I have had a lot of clients and people that I've worked with where that is their goal. They really want to take their product and use it to help supply their community with those needed goods and services. So maybe there is someone who's producing bread and they want to service all of the elementary schools in their region. That's a great way of doing it. That's another additional channel that you can use. And also partnerships. If you are a vendor, maybe you sell cookies and someone else sells ice cream, and you form a partnership and you say, hey, at our farmers market, we are going to have our booths side by side and co-promote each other. Or we're going to have a special and we're going to make ice cream sandwiches, but it's 2 of my cookies and 2 scoops of your ice cream. Those are different partnerships within vendors. Also, from a holistic market perspective, maybe you say, hey, we have a farmer's market and we would love to partner with local musicians to provide music during the market, or food trucks, or other vendors from different spaces. Maybe you have a resource booth and there are community development, business development, and other personnel who every week can come and provide all of those different resources to the people that come to your market. So think about all the creative ways you can have partnerships and then utilize different channels to sell your product. So one thing that I would make sure is that you definitely research and look into the implications of all of these different channels, because some might have larger quantity order commitments, for example, than others. So first of all, I would think about the target audience. So who are you trying to target? Why are you trying to get into that channel anyway? Are you trying to bring in more families? And maybe that's why you have the partnership of a food truck, because sometimes people, as they walk around, especially with little kids, the kid gets hungry and you need to eat quickly. That's an option if you want to have a food truck, especially if you have more of a produce facing market that has less of those ready to eat food options. And then how would you also fulfill the quantity of the additional orders? So this is especially important in food production and also anything that's producing a commodity or a good. Have you thought through how you are going to satisfy all of those additional quantity orders? If you are already maxed out at capacity for production and you are thinking of adding on another market, for example, then that is definitely a consideration to think about, because if you're already at your maximum, would you be overstretching yourself by, instead of just doing your local farmers market, also going into another one county over? So think through those things and those implications and considerations, because sometimes a channel or an idea sounds amazing, and then you start thinking about it logically, and then that's kind of where some complications can occur. So think through it, think about why you want to get into that channel, what's your purpose behind it, and see if it makes sense for you. What makes sense for one business will not necessarily make sense for someone else. And if you're really passionate about supplying local schools and someone else is very passionate about getting into the e-commerce space, those are different directions and different paths. So you'll pick different channels, and that is totally okay. So the next thing to think about is additional product offerings. So what additional products can you produce and sell to bring in new customers, either to your booth or to your market holistically, and expand your offerings? So this really plays off of the slide that we just talked about with those different channels. So analyzing your market and consumer trends. So this is where research will definitely help from a few different lenses. So I actually just found this study that you can see, the Outlook 2025 flavor trends. I actually just looked this up and found this just the other day for this presentation to kind of give you guys an idea of the information that's out there. So based off of this flavor report from the Institute of Food Technologists, this year in 2025, consumers will seek flavors that soothe, stimulate, and satisfy. So that's kind of where the market is heading. And you can also dive deeper into your specific product. If you are a pastry chef, maybe what you want to dive into is, what is the trending fruit flavor? What fruit inclusions do you want to add to your tarts, your scones, your cupcakes, your muffins to really bring in consumers? What are people looking for? So look at what's popular, where industry and trends are going, and then look at product types. Are low sugar options currently the rage, or is it that everyone wants to see the product in the packaging? So you don't want it to be opaque, you want it to be glass or clear plastic. Again, following with those regulations and guidances if you're doing a food product as well. So this is where also that consumer research piece that we talked about earlier ties back in. So let's go back to our pumpkin pie example. If you're selling pumpkin pies and you really think you have a place in the market to sell other types of pies, what do your consumers want? So instead of blindly saying pumpkin and apple sounds good, let's make apple pies, think about what people want. Maybe you say, hey, consumers who were at my booth at the farmer's market this week, can you write on a piece of paper additional pie flavors that you would like? Have them put it in a jar, and then you can read that back. And if everyone is saying cherry pie, that's where you should go next. Even though you were thinking it would be apple, it's actually cherry. You could also do that with cookies, for example. If you do chocolate chip cookies, maybe you research online that the flavor trends for this year are really focusing on nuts. So you ask your consumers, what additional cookie flavors would you like to see? And you notice that nuts, but specifically maybe walnuts, are coming up a lot. Then you know from the trend of the whole food industry, plus what your consumers want, and you can really narrow it down and say, all right, chocolate chip cookies and now walnut cookies are my way to go. So you can definitely use your consumers to get insights, and then market research as well to really see what would benefit you most through your expansion. And I will say, sometimes you expand and you've got all the research and all the insights that it should be a success, and sometimes there are product expansions that do not turn out how we want. Maybe you thought you would have 100 cookies sold per week of that new flavor, but actually it's only 25. Then you can kind of think about, okay, what happened? Everyone said they wanted walnut cookies, but now they're not buying them. Are you not advertising them enough? Do they not know that that's an option? Maybe it is a walnut cookie, but it's too moist and it's falling apart. So you need to reformulate all of those different things. So it's very much a cyclical winding path as to how you get there, but you can absolutely use consumer insights, trends, all of that information to help you make the best expansion possible. And then marketing plans. So do you have a marketing plan in general? And how are you advertising to your consumers? So this is going to look a little bit different depending on what your target market is. So if you are mostly focusing on families, then maybe you're going to market differently than if you are focusing on advertising to just couples that don't have children, those different areas. So like understanding where your target market gets their information is really helpful. So if you are targeting the younger generations, then maybe social media is your way to go, because a lot of young people are on social media and they really interact a lot, maybe with Facebook, Instagram, on all of those different outlets and platforms. So maybe you focus there. Maybe if your products are instead targeting an older audience, you would focus on maybe radio and newspaper, and these are very much general. Sometimes both generations can also switch, and you will have some of the older generation coming back and doing social media very heavily, and the younger generation also going to newspaper, radio, and those sorts of things. So these are just generalistic ideas, and definitely not one size fits all, but looking at how you can best target those markets. So after you have established, this is my target market and these are the people that I want to really focus on, then tailoring your marketing opportunities and marketing plan to those groups. So that's where that research component that I just talked about comes in. Do they mostly look at social media, TV, radio, newspaper? Do you want to create a mailing list? So maybe every time someone purchases your product, you say, hey, thanks for purchasing. Please sign up on the clipboard for addition to our email list, where we send out, maybe that's where you do new flavor information. That's where you can maybe send out coupons if you want to go that way. And that helps with a lot with repeat customers, when you can really continually engage and bring people in and remind them, hey, farmers market's coming up, we're going to be there, hope to see you there, and those different opportunities as well. So that's a really great way to go. Also, a lot of people will do, for example, biannually or quarterly newsletters to just engage people, engage your customers, remind them, hi, I'm here, this is what I'm selling, and I'd love to see you come back again. And also compare those channels for ease of use and benefits. So if something is really expensive and you are hoping for a very low budget option, then that is definitely something, cost, a big thing to think about when you're comparing all these different avenues. At the same time, maybe you do have a lot of money in your marketing budget and you want to go the extra mile and pay for those higher priced services. That's something to consider too. So definitely look at what works best for your business. And I know that sometimes marketing plans can seem very daunting, because it's okay, not only am I stocking, supplying, producing, selling, all of these things at my booth, I also have to remember to post on Instagram or Facebook or something like that. You can absolutely tailor this to what fits your needs the best, and you can make a schedule. So this is actually something that I do. I run the Agriculture Innovation Center here at Purdue University, and I have, actually, it looks very similar to the one here on the bottom of the screen. So it walks through, when are you going to post and what's that topic? And that has, for me personally, helped a lot with managing marketing, especially on the social media side, is having a plan and saying, okay, maybe we post 3 times a week and it's Monday, and let's say your market is on a Saturday. Maybe it's Monday, Thursday, Saturday. And those are the 3 days every week that you're going to post, and you want to post around 9 to 10 a.m. each time. Great. Now you don't have to think through that. You can write yourself a reminder. Hey, one of our posting days is Saturday. Always post a picture at the farmer's market to bring people in. Maybe Thursday is always a reminder or a products of the week for that upcoming market. And maybe Monday is saying, we're happy that you were here. This is either consumer feedback we got or a market insight or something like that. And you can really make sure that it is something that is frequent so that you keep people engaged with your business and your products, but also not too overwhelming for you at the same time, because this can be a lot. So I think that marketing plans are very helpful, and I know for sure that they have definitely helped me as I've done this with our program as well. So that was a lot of information and a lot of different steps, and they will look very different. I completely acknowledge that some people on this call and in this meeting, maybe you're at the establishment stage, maybe you're already in the expansion and you're looking at how can I, go into different markets or expand my product line and all of those different things. So at every step in the journey, I wanted to make sure that you all had resources that were actually helpful. Because I know that sometimes you hear something and it sounds great, but how do I actually implement that? How do I actually do that? And if I have a question, who can I ask? First of all, you can ask me. So my email will be given out, and if it's not in the chat or on the webpage already, I can absolutely put it there. So you can absolutely reach out to me. But here are all kinds of other resources that I wanted you all to know about for every part in your food product business journey. So of course, I had to put Food Entrepreneurship and Manufacturing Institute, FEMI, first. So as that is the institute that I work for here at Purdue University. So we are housed in the food science department, and we are focused more on food product assistance side. And that is fee-based depending on your product. There are other opportunities to reduce, lower, or get rid of those fees that I'll talk about in a little bit. But that really spans the depth and the breadth. I have worked on products and projects where someone has simply emailed and said, "Hi, I've never made this before, but I have an idea. Can you help?" Sure. Or maybe someone says, "Hi, I've been making this product for 10 years. I know the formulation works. I know my marketing channels. I know my distribution, et cetera, et cetera. I have a very specific question focused on the fermentation process of this product." Great. We can help pretty much anywhere along the way. The two things that we cannot do, which are sometimes easier than saying what we can, and I'll get into this in a little bit on a slide, is that we are not a co-manufacturing facility and we do not do nutritional analysis. So those are the two things to think about with FEMI. The next resource that you have is the Agriculture Innovation Center program. So that is the program that I specifically run. That's my baby within the Institute. So the AIC program is free to eligible agriculture commodity consumers in Indiana. And I have a few slides that kind of walk through this program, how to apply in a little bit. So I'll dive deeper into that here soon. But that is focusing on value-added product assistance. And then that, again, is free for eligible participants. We also have Purdue Extension. So there are just a plethora, so many publications that are either how-tos or Q&As on all kinds of different topics in the food and business spaces. And those are a Google search away. So those articles are free online. And if you look up a question, or if you simply want to see what Purdue Extension has, you can look up Purdue Extension, look through the databases, the topics, and all of those resources are there on demand whenever you'd like. So remember how I talked about with FEMI, sometimes there are ways to help with project fees. So that would be the Technical Assistance Program 40, which is called TAP 40. So this is actually through the state of Indiana, and I would highly encourage anyone who is looking for assistance to utilize this program. So it provides 40 hours per calendar year of technical assistance to eligible LLCs in Indiana. So as long as you're an LLC, you're able to be eligible for this, and you do not have to do this with FEMI. This is not tied to FEMI. You can use these subsidized 40 hours with a community development coordinator, with a business planning group, pretty much almost anyone. So again, it could be us, which helps with the fee-based assistance that FEMI provides, but it could be a plethora of different groups and organizations. So I would absolutely recommend looking into that and utilizing those 40 hours. And you can, let's say you start tomorrow, then this time next year you would be eligible for 40 more hours. So it is something that can definitely help at that subsidized rate. Something else is that if you are on the larger scale of production, Partner Slate is a group that pairs clients to co-manufacturers and other industry representatives. So if you are really trying to find a co-manufacturing facility in your area, or you need an expert that has this specific expertise for your product or your business, Partner Slate is a really good connector of different people and resources. They are fee-based and the pricing does vary depending on how in-depth that you want them to be, how many connections and those sorts of things. Definitely another one to look into as well. So we talked earlier about business plans, and I promised that there was a tool coming, and here it is. So the business plan writing tool was developed by ag econ experts at Purdue, specifically Dr. Maria Marshall. It is completely free to use. It is available in English and Spanish, and the link is right there on the bottom. So if you want to take a picture, or I know Christina is recording these presentations, so you'll be able to come back and find it if you need to later, but it's set up in a question and answer format. And at the end, you have a business plan and it walks through all those different considerations and steps. So I really like that tool that is, again, completely free to use and walks you through all those different intricacies. And this is the rest of the resources that I have for you all today. So RangeMe is an online platform to showcase your product. So if you are producing food products or other products and are interested in getting to retail, so maybe you want to be on the shelf of your local Fresh Time, Kroger, etc., this is wonderful for helping with those connections. So the pricing again varies, but it is very manageable. And you essentially create an online profile for your products. You can upload pictures, put in your vision and mission statements, your branding, put everything in there. And it's a great way to have all of your business and product materials in one space. And then you can showcase that. And if someone is looking at potentially adding you to a retail store shelf, then they will often actually in industry, they will say, hey, do you have RangeMe? Can you send me the link to it? And you do. And it has all your information packaged up in a nice bundle. And it really helps in getting into those retail opportunities. Similarly, on the business side, 99 Designs and RangeMe and 99 Designs will both come up with a quick search in your search engine. 99 Designs is really helpful in marketing materials. So logo, color scheme, and all of those different specifically graphic marketing tool intricacies. And this one is actually, I think, really cool because you essentially are taking your idea for your logo and your color scheme, and you are having freelance marketing, logo, graphic design experts, etc., create those for you. So you're almost holding like a little contest and you're saying, hey, this is my logo idea, this is my idea color scheme, font, all of those things. And then all these freelance people will submit potential entries and you hold like a contest and you decide that's where the pricing varies comes in. There's a fee associated with that. So you get lots of different potential logos and designs, and you can tell people, hey, I like this one, but can you make the green brighter? Hey, I like this one, but I don't like that font. And essentially you hold this contest, narrow it down, and you're able to get a professionally designed by a freelance designer logo, color scheme, marketing materials for your product. And again, very affordable. Don't quote me on it, but I think it's around $100 to start. But again, pricing will vary depending on intricacy and where you go with those sorts of things, but really helps with making those marketing materials. Then if you are looking for specific research in the economic and related sectors, the Center for Food Demand Analysis and Sustainability at Purdue is a great option if you are looking at expanding and getting some distinct data points and research about your either your consumers, your target markets, etc. Food Business News is a subscription to food industry news that is just sent to your email, and it's free to subscribe. So if you are just purely curious about what's happening in the food industry and those related spaces, then you can get this sent to your email. I believe it's either one a day or one a week, which I realize is a big difference in magnitude. But you get all of that news and information, and it's bite-sized chunks, and you can really walk through it and see, okay, actually, hot and spicy flavors are trending in this product category, and botanicals are trending in this one. And you can just get some interesting news if you're looking for more holistic information about the food industry. And then last but definitely not least is that home-based vendor webinar I mentioned a little bit earlier. So that is an upcoming meeting to discuss home-based vendor options. If you are looking at creating food products as a home-based vendor, it is free to attend. So I'll have a QR code and a flyer here in a few slides. So to dive a little bit deeper into a few of these, I kind of touched on this slide already. What is FEMI? If you're looking for help within the food industry, food product space, we offer everything from pH and water activity testing to sensory evaluation, shelf life studies, challenge studies, everything in between. And again, we work with people who have just an idea and they've never made the product before, all the way up to large established businesses and everything in between. If you have a question, we have likely heard it, or if we haven't, we will research it, connect you to people who have, and get you that specific assistance. So again, the two things that we really don't do is that we're not a co-manufacturing facility. So if you're looking for that scale of production, we do not offer that, but we do have a commercial kitchen available for rent if you want it up on campus. And then we do not do nutritional studies, but we do have a list of other facilities who do, if that's what you're interested in. And then this is that Agriculture Innovation Center program that I was mentioning earlier as well. So who is eligible? That's the center I run, that's the program. So if you have any questions, you'll be emailing me directly and I would be happy to help you along the way. So that's growers of agricultural commodities in Indiana. So as long as you're in Indiana and grow that ag commodity, you should be good to go. So that's fruits, nuts, vegetables, livestock products. So if you have beef cattle to make into jerky or dairy cattle to do milk, those are other ag commodities that are available for assistance in this program as well. Grains. The two other things to note is that the food has to be for human consumption. So we do not do pet treats, for example, or if you are growing soy to make soy candles, also can't do that, but value-added food products for human consumption. And what the program does is it essentially provides a holistic entrepreneurial lens to food products and food businesses. So it's hands-on learning of safe food production, business planning. You will have an opportunity to come up to Purdue's campus and actually explore our facilities. So you can walk through a commercial kitchen, a pilot plant facility, and those things if you haven't already. And you can see what resources are available. And we really want to make sure that it is not a cookie cutter experience for everyone. So you can absolutely have us focus more on a farmer's market if that is your end target that you want to look at, if you want to do retail, if you want to be an organizational supplier, such as to your local schools, and you have access to all of our experts as well. So this program gives free enrollment into our three phases of programming for those who are eligible. So you have free access to our 6 self-paced online courses, and that sounds daunting. They take about 3 hours each to complete. There's 6 of them, and you have free access. And since it is self-paced, it is absolutely not, I have to log in at 9 a.m. It is, you do it on your free time. There's no end date. And then you would have an opportunity to attend our in-person food product lifecycle workshop, and that would walk through essentially in more detail what we talked about today, looking at market research through formulation and expanding your products. Then you have an invitation to pitch your product, Shark Tank entrepreneurial style, to then work with us individually to actually develop that food product. And again, access to our resources to get all of your questions answered along the way. And then here is that home-based vendor webinar. So the QR code will take you to that registration page. Is February 21st. So I believe next Friday, 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. And this is going to walk through everything home-based vendor. And please take all your questions. They are happy to help. There are people in our Purdue Food Science Department who will be there along with the Indiana Department of Health to help answer those questions and look at some different guidance documents. So I believe this is where you can find information and resources. Again, this is just the FEMI and AIC websites. So that would be the end of the presentation, but I'm going to leave this screen up just for a little bit so that if people want to scan the QR code, I know the home-based vendor webinar is pretty popular, so I'm just going to leave that up temporarily. But thank you all for listening to the resources, the presentation, and I am more than happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Madison. That was fantastic. That was a lot of great information, and I'm sure you're going to get some questions. Just wanted to remind everyone that there is a survey in the chat right now, so if you could just take a moment and fill that out, we would appreciate that. But then if anyone has any questions, please come unmute and ask away.
I think I saw some in the chat too.
Looks like there's a lot of questions asking about how to access your recording, and so people are wanting to review it.
Yeah, thanks, Jared. All the recordings will be made available on the Indiana Farmers Market Community of Practice website. You go to the trainings tab, and then the first one is the Indiana Farmers Market Forum. Click on that, and the recordings will be uploaded onto that page. It'll probably be end of next week before I'll get them all uploaded, but they will be there. And I did post, I did drop Madison's email into the chat for you all.
Thank you, Christina.
Mhm.
I appreciate you putting that in.
I think I noticed a question earlier from, I don't know if it was a farmer's market vendor or a market manager. You had mentioned if they sell out a product early, the question was, do they raise prices?
So that would definitely depend on the landscape of the product. And what I mean by that is if you are selling out, it is likely because either you can raise your price and people will still purchase the product, or because you are not producing enough. So that's kind of a two-tiered, two-prong approach because it definitely depends. If you raise your price and you are outside of that competitive space, then your demand is going to drop. However, if you produce more, that's probably where I would start, is producing more product, seeing if you still have the same volume of demand or if you're able to reach demand, and then look at potentially increasing that price, because it is a fine balance between the demand you have and also the price that you're selling at. But if you raise your price and suddenly you are 1.5 to 2 times more expensive than everyone else, then you might see that negative demand impact. So I would probably consider first looking at, can you produce more and have more available? And if you are still selling out even after you increase demand, then that's when I would consider raising your prices, but being mindful of that competitive space. And that's when looking at either the prices of others, whether that be in a store, e-commerce, that's when that is helpful, because you can kind of see maybe you're actually underpricing right now and you're not at that competitive space yet. So raising the price to get to competitive would also be a potential option.
Madison, wouldn't that be a good time for them to try new product too, as a way to introduce like a new product line, or try a different variety of cookies like you mentioned earlier? If they're selling out, maybe their clients would appreciate a new iteration on their sweetbreads or their pies like you were mentioning. That would be definitely an opportunity to either to add something new or Yeah, basically, and it could bring in more clients too at the same time, correct?
Yes, and absolutely, I would encourage you, talk to the people that are walking by, talk to your consumers. They're there at your booth or at your market because they're interested. So you already did the hard part. They're already there. They're already at the market. They're already standing in front of you and those sorts of things. So ask them. And honestly, consumers love being able to say, hey, actually, this is what I think of your product, or you're considering a new flavor. That's awesome. This is what I think you should do. So ask those people, because if they're at the market already, then you've already drawn them in. If they're at your booth, they're interested in your product in some capacity anyway. So utilize those people and don't be afraid to ask questions. And often that personalized interaction of even saying, hey, everyone that walks by, I'm going to ask, what flavor of cookie would you like to see that is new for our booth? That is such a personalized little extra touch of they're listening to me. They're hearing my feedback. They want to make sure that they have something that I like. That really helps bring in and build your reputation, your client base. And it is that extra little personalized touch that I think can really make farmers markets and farmers market booths and vendors so special, is that you can have that personalized interaction there in the moment. So make those surveys with a QR code, ask people verbally, or literally take a jar and have slips of paper and say, hey, I always sell out of my chocolate chip cookies. I am looking at doing a new flavor. Can you please list your top 2 flavors that you would like to see of cookies? And then you can take those comments, go back, read them, and use that to inform. If everyone is saying that you need to start doing cranberry cookies, now you know, and you can implement that, and you've actually been able then when you start selling them to say, hey, everyone that gave us feedback, this is the flavor that you guys asked for. And it also shows that you're listening, and that's really helpful, and that means a lot to people too.
All right, anybody else? Please feel free to unmute. Great. Well, Madison, thank you so much. That was a lot of great information, and we definitely appreciate, great presentation. Appreciate your time and talent.
Absolutely, absolutely. And thank you again for putting my email in the chat. Anyone that has any questions in any capacity, I would be more than happy to either chat individually, or I saw some people that were asking for materials for farmers market vendors. You can also email me if you're interested. At least for FEMI and the AIC program that I'm a part of and that I also run, I have informational flyers and those sorts of things already made. So if you're interested in getting those out to the people at your farmers markets, please send me an email and I would be more than happy to send those your way so that you don't have to make them. I can just send you them already.
Thank you. That sounds like a great opportunity. Well, thank you, everyone.